Hello, my name is Tyrone Penry. I'm a solitary pagan witch, I'm an author and the founder of the Wolf and Howl Press. And this is one of my little talks that I do every so often. And it's about psychic chords. It's all a part of psychic self-defense. I wrote a book on this some years back, The Essential Guide to Psychic Self-Defense. And it's surprising how many of the same problems come up again and again and again. You might think, oh, everybody's different, everybody's going to have a totally different experience of psychic attacks, but actually there's only a small number that keep recurring. And one of these deals with the removal of what I call psychic chords. I mean, other people may call them something else, but I'll explain what I mean. In an earlier video, I talked about psychic vampires and how they seem to attach themselves to you round about the third eye with a red cord. Well, there are other types of cords, and one of them is this cord that will attach somewhere around the solar plexus. Now, if you're not quite sure about the solar plexus, it's around here, and it's a nerve centre. Physically, it's a nerve centre in the body, so it makes very good sense for anything unpleasant to attach itself in there. Why does it get attached? Well, basically it's a way of controlling the victim, the person who has been attached to this cord. It's also a way of spying on them, seeing what they're getting up to, so it's quite a common method of attack with people who have once been in a relationship, because they can get close enough to attach a cord to you, perhaps while you're sleeping, and then they can just sit back and see what happens. Can they be attached accidentally? In my experience, no. I'm open on them. Wait a minute. That noise is Audrey having a bad dream. She's killing something or something. Right. Can they be attached accidentally? In my experience, no, they can't. I'm open on this. If somebody comes to me and says, I accidentally did it, I'm happy to listen. I'm happy to revise my views. They're never written in stone. You know, I'm always happy to turn around and say, whoops. No, I've had to think about that again. But I think they're attached deliberately with, I won't say malicious, but an unpleasant intention. Put it that way. Now, this brings us to the ethics of whether or not we should remove it. Now, some people get a little bit wound up about this. I often get myself into arguments with people about ethics, but for me, the ethics of doing something is that if I have something attached to me that I do not want, I am perfectly entitled to get rid of it. I didn't start out with it, therefore I can get rid of it however I choose. This does not mean that I want to go on the attack against the person who put it there. I certainly don't want to go off and attach any cords of my own to that person. I often think that in our desire to rid ourselves of things that are attacking us, there is sometimes a rather misguided desire for vengeance, and it's natural enough, but I would say no, leave it alone. Just concentrate on getting rid of it, because believe me, with some of these cords, it can take all your energy just to get rid of the damn thing. Anyhow, I'm looking down here. Don't know if you can actually see it, but because I made some notes, because there were quite a few things I wanted to cover. Right, first thing is there are lots of other cords that attach around here. Psychic cords, as part of a psychic attack, are not the only type. You have cords of love, cords of affection. Why do you think we talk about our heartstrings, for example? You know, these are all cords. And they're nice cords, and we don't want to get rid of them. So none of this Edward Scissorhands stuff of having long shears on your hands and cutting through everything. You would be very, very sorry if you did that. That's not the way to do it. Cords which are nice, which are cords of love, cords of affection, things that bind us to people and things and places that we like, they are normally very comfortable. We don't mind them. They never bother us. They never feel nasty. Psychic attack cords, however, do. They can feel very sore. You can literally feel them sometimes sore. I'd often advise people, especially if you're lying down, you're nice and flat. I mean, I'm not flat sitting here, I'm all sort of, you know, fat and curvy and what have you. But if you lie down, you can put your hand over this area like this and you will feel sort of buzzing sensations and things, and you can begin to interpret which ones are nice and which ones are not. Maybe, let's hope, you don't have any nasty ones, in which case fine. But maybe you find there are some that feel a bit sore, a bit uncomfortable. They also tend to pulsate a lot. They tend to have that kind of nasty feeling to them. They're quite unpleasant. And I think they pulsate because they're trying to withdraw energy from you. They're trying to withdraw information from you. They're very much alive. A cord of love doesn't need to do that. It might hum a little bit or vibrate a little bit, but it's not going to pulsate, and it's certainly not going to feel unpleasant. The other thing is that with cords that are meant to be there, cords with people and places and things that we love, you can actually feel the cord and you can see mentally the person on the other end. That's very important too. Now with a cord for a psychic attack, you will very, very, very rarely ever see anybody on the other end. Why? Because they have taken time and effort to hide themselves. That's what a psychic attack does. They're not necessarily going to come onto your full face. They try to do a lot of their damage covertly without being seen. They try to hide themselves. So, what are we going to do? Well, unlike this cord here where you can just cut it, you know, we talked about that in the other video. These cords around the solar plexus are like elastic, especially a cord for a psychic attack. It really is like really thick rubber bands or elastic or whatever you want to call it. It's not going to be an easy thing to get rid of. Now, one of my great beliefs is that we should always have visualized for ourselves one offensive and one defensive psychic weapon. These are not real weapons. Please don't go out and buy yourselves, you know, great long daggers or anything like that. You don't need it, but you do need to visualize it. And different people visualize different sorts of weapons, and we'll try and do a video on that at some point as well. But visualize something which is sharp, which can cut. That's your offensive weapon. You don't need your shield, your defensive weapon for this, just the sharp one. So if you haven't already got one, you need to set about for a few days creating one in your mind, thinking about it. What does it look like? What does it feel like to hold? What does it like to work with? And you then need to visualize a flame. And you heat up this visualized psychic weapon of yours, your knife, your dagger. I wouldn't advise a sword for this because it's going to be too long, you know. So you visualize yourself heating it up, getting the blade really, really hot. And the idea of this is that you're going to grab this cord, this pulsating, nasty, unpleasant cord that you haven't asked to be put there, and you're going to use your heated knife to cut it. Now, it's not going to be very pleasant to do, even mentally. It's not going to be a pleasant thing to do. It's going to resist, it's going to move, it's going to pull. So you have to mentally be very firm with it. No, I'm going to cut you now, you've had enough. And the idea of heating the knife is to cauterize it. And when you cauterize it, it cannot reattach. If you just cut through it mentally, it will try and reattach somewhere else. Because when you do cut it, this thing is going to be all over the place. You know, like fighting a giant squid. And it's going to try and get hold of you. But the point is, if you've heated the blade, visualized it in your mind, then it cannot reattach. The end is cauterized. It can't stick back on. You just cut through it, it will go. And you might find, as I said, it will thrash around a bit, and in particular it will try and sometimes wrap itself around your arm or your hand. There's nothing it can do, it doesn't matter. You can wriggle and fight it and what have you, and swap hands and stick at it, but it doesn't matter because it cannot do anything. You have broken its power. Now, I do have to say that if you have someone very determined attacking you, they may well try and attach another cord, especially if you don't know who did it. But the point is, this is what you do. Every time you keep repeating the same process that I've said here. You visualize your sharp-bladed knife. You visualize heating it up, getting it really, really hot, red hot. You visualize cutting it, cauterizing it, cannot reattach. So every time that's what you do. And if there is somebody deliberately doing it on the other end, they're soon going to get very, very fed up with this, because clearly you're onto them. They can't do these things with impunity anymore. They might go away and think of something else. They may well do. They may keep on for a little while. But you have to be determined, you know. Please, please don't do what so many people do. Oh, there's nothing I can do, they say. Of course there is. Doesn't matter how little it is. It doesn't matter if you're, you know, tiny and you're up against some tremendously powerful person. Chances are they're not powerful. They've just told you they are. You don't worry. You just keep going. You keep on going. Every time they knock you down, you get back up and you start again. Every time they attach a cord, you get your knife, slice through it. And sooner or later, they will, believe me, they will give up. Anyway, that's quite enough drama for one evening, I think, don't you? Thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.